Welcome back, everyone, to the sixth episode of the BEE Chamber podcast. We're super excited to be back and recording our sixth episode, and we're hoping that you've enjoyed our first 5 episodes of the BEE Chamber podcast. And in today's session, we are going to be discussing something really important to our country, as well as what's happening in our space in South Africa right now. We are celebrating National Disability Awareness Month, which started on the 3rd of November up until the 3rd of December 2024. And I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Fulton, here at the BEE Chamber. Fulton, how are you? Welcome. Are you doing good?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. It's great to have you here. It's great to have you part of our session today. Always good to engage with the BEE Chamber colleagues. So Fulton, maybe just to get started off, tell us a bit about your role at the BEE Chamber. Which area do you work within and what do you do on a daily basis?
I work in the ES desk. What we do is we employ unemployed youth, place them on a 12-month working experience program. Once they are placed, we make sure that their journey is, let's say, smooth throughout the 12 months. We collect documents, we mentor them throughout the journey,
No, that's awesome. I mean, the YES initiative is something that is really important to ourselves as the BEE Chamber, but also to the country.
Yeah.
And looking at how best we can involve young people within working positions, putting them into job positions, gaining experience for the young people within the workplace. I think it's a really important initiative. So it's very good that you're in this space. I know that you're doing pretty well in this space, so it's pretty exciting to see yourself still working in this area. But also tell us a bit about yourself, a bit of background about yourself as a person, where are you from, where did you grow up, things like that. Just tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm from Eldorado Park. My childhood I grew up in the Northwest Province, in Klerksdorp. I moved here when I was 5-6 years old and I started school that side. I attended high school, I finished high school in 2012. I went into study information technology, IT. After that I started working as a factory packer. It was my first job, yes. And from there I moved on to call centers, doing sales, basically moving job in, job out. I also worked as a receptionist at BMW. It was in Klerksdorp. And then in 2019 I moved back here. Okay. And then this when I started the YES program. I myself was a YES candidate in 2019 here at the BEE Chamber. So I was fortunate enough to be absorbed at the end of the program. I'm a fun person, talkative, confident. I like making jokes, like speaking to people.
No, awesome. Definitely a conversationalist from your side, Fulton. I've also had a lot of conversations with you since I've been also at the Chamber, and we've always had interesting conversations, whether it's work-wise or even personal-wise. It's always been good. And today's topic that we want to explore and unpack is this concept of National Disability Awareness Month. And it's something that is really significant to BEE legislation. And there's certain areas of the BEE scorecard as well as BEE initiatives that incorporate people with disabilities. And to some degree you find that, people would think that this is not enough within the scorecard. There's 3 areas that is focused on in the scorecard, specifically under skills development, management control, as well as enterprise and supply development. But to some degree, people might find this is too little in terms of recognizing people with disabilities under the BEE scorecard. What are your thoughts in terms of, are we recognizing enough people with disabilities in the South African context? Do we need to do more? And what can we do more around this space?
I don't think disability is being recognized enough. People just ignore people with disability. If someone is being disabled, you're like, oh, this person is disabled. You automatically feel sorry for that person. I feel like the country can do more in terms of them, besides them just receiving a grant from the country, in terms of them finding themselves, placing themselves into our country, in the working environment. Because at the end of the day, just that grant is not enough for him to live on. They also have abilities that they would like to showcase to the world. They also have abilities and stuff that they would like to do. So I definitely think that they can be done, more can be done.
No, definitely. And you know, one of the things that I've also come across quite often is that people look at people with disabilities by citing their disability first. Now, this is also very important to understand that, you know, when we look at people with disabilities, they are still first a person.
Yes.
And people often overlook that. They often look at firstly their disability and start making assumptions and judgments based on the disability rather than looking at what that person is capable of. And what are your thoughts around that? Because I think it speaks to education. And a lot of people are not educated around the space or don't want to be educated around the space. What are your thoughts on that? Are people willing to learn or they just don't really want to know?
We find different people in the world, and so I don't think people are willing to learn. Some of them are, some of them are not. They look at the disability, they don't look at the person itself. And once you get to know or sit with someone who's disabled, you get to know things about them. You find out actually how interesting they are. You can even learn from that person yourself. So I don't think people are willing to learn because I don't think they exposed more enough. Because people, it's not like every third person you see is not really disabled, you know. So there's quite a few of them, but I don't think people are aware of people with disability and what they actually go through.
Yeah, no, that's very important as well. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And again, people obviously, when they don't know things, they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think the educational component needs to come in very strongly. You know, speaking about disability and different types of disabilities is very important within the workplace, but also our personal lives. You know, educating individuals of how to also acknowledge, but also interact with people, because you know, again, I stress upon the point of seeing the person first. That's the most important part, instead of recognizing the disability and starting to be awkward about engaging with that person because of that. So from a corporate perspective and from a company perspective, I think education is key. What are some of the thoughts that or ideas that you think could be good educational ways of educating people with people about people with disabilities? Like, do you think we need to have workshops? Do you think we need to have reading material? What do you think will have a lot more impact of creating awareness?
First-hand experience. I think people should be more around people with disabilities so they can understand the different types of disability and understand what they actually go through and understand how difficult it is for them to do certain things. So I think first-hand experience would definitely educate them. Workshops will help so that they can also see that just because they're disabled doesn't mean they cannot read or they can't do this or you know, or they are not smart enough. I think first-hand experience would.
So that's quite interesting that you mentioned that, and I wasn't expecting that, because you know, normally the corporate space would start off with a workshop. You know, put people in a room, have a slideshow going, teaching people about different areas of disability, the definition of disability, and you've come out and said, you know, first-hand experience, which I think is quite important because it's more practical. You're getting to experience it, you know, in the environment from a practical perspective rather than reading notes or a slideshow that don't really show you the practical side of things. And besides workshops, I mean, yes, it's very educational, but you know, from your point, practical experience would be, you know, number one. That's where you're going to be able to engage and understand and educate yourself a lot more. And other than that, other than workshops, do you think, you know, also reading material, videos, do you think those things enhance education around the space?
I think it does. In some sense, reading material, videos, you get it, but not everyone will. If you come, let's say on social media, you come across a video of a disabled person, people are not really gonna take their time to listen to it 5 minutes. So if this person is going through, they'll automatically just scroll or just watch it for 30 seconds. So those reading materials and videos do help in certain ways, but I go with first-hand experience, practical experience, so you can see emotionally and actually feel it for yourself and understand what you are capable, what you have as a person who's not disabled, and what this person who is disabled, what you all have, what the differences are between the both of you.
Yes, no, of course. And speaking now of first-hand experience, I believe that also your son is a person with a disability.
Yes.
And just to touch on that, I mean, how has your experience been with him, growing him up, seeing him also grow up? How has the experience been for yourself?
It's been difficult. It's also been he's diagnosed with cerebral palsy, so that means he is not able to move certain parts of his body.
Yes.
Okay? So his brain is developing slow, so he's unable to walk. He's left-handed, so he's unable to move his right hand. So my experience, it's a good journey. It's also a difficult one because you need to have patience as well with this person. And yeah, but it's been a good journey. It's been a good journey.
No, that's great. But I'm sure at the same time with this journey that you're going on, you see him as a person.
Yes.
You see his skill set, you see his qualities, you see his traits first before all of the areas that you need to be patient with.
Yes.
Because that's something that you can manage.
Yeah.
I believe that you can manage those areas, but you also see him as a person. And how old is he now, if I may ask?
He's turning 8 now in 29th November. So yeah, he loves music, you know, he's a conversationalist. He's someone who's very full of life. He enjoys life, you know, always has a smile on his face. People also wonder, he always has a smile on his face. He's someone that will greet you randomly in the streets when you walk past. Hello, how are you? Fine. So yeah, I would say that I'm really enjoying getting to know him and see him as a person, as well as the skills. Me and myself, I also learn from him.
Of course.
Certain things. So yeah.
No, that's great to hear. And I mean, speaking about, you know, interacting with people and other people out there, I mean, we just talked about the concept of education and also first-hand experience. You know, when we put that in a practical environment, for example, going to a shopping center or a mall or just walking down the street, you know, how are those interactions with people? Are people afraid to approach him and yourself, or are they willing to come and have a conversation? How is that?
Some of the people, they just pass us by. But some of the people actually come to him, greet him, say, hello boy, how are you? And they have that little conversation. But we always get stares, like with someone that's in a wheelchair, because he's in a wheelchair. But there are people who interacts with him. There are people who loves him. Random people will find him in the store and you just start chatting. They're surprised that he can actually speak and have the type of conversation with the next person. So I would say some of them are afraid. They don't know how to approach. They don't know if they're stepping out of way or just approaching this couple with their son in the mall. So yeah, but some of them are afraid, but people do approach it.
Yeah, and speaking about that, you know, when you look at going places and also accessibility, how are you experiencing that? Because, you know, I've been to so many different, you know, shopping centers or malls, and you sometimes find it difficult to, you know, find access for people with disabilities. And if they are, you know, some sort of support mechanisms for them, for example, a lift, it's not always within the areas where all of the other places are. It's pretty much further down away from, you know, areas, and you have to actually walk a bit further to get to it. But how has your experience been about accessibility? Do you see buildings, malls, shopping centers, do you see accessibility?
Accessibility, it's been a bit difficult for us. We don't have our own transport, so we use public transport. So just for us going with him places with his wheelchair and everything, so it's a bit difficult. Accessibility in malls, besides the lifts, like you said, it's more one side. Even the disability parking is like, you know, it's like a wave. But malls, that's why I say we need to create people need to have first-hand experience with awareness, so that shopping malls, businesses, so they can make it more accessible for people who are in wheelchairs and so forth.
No, of course. I mean, I think the first experience will really open up eyes.
Yes.
It will really help you see, how things are actually happening, and when the planning is taking place for building or mall or shopping centers or whatever it may be, these types of situations can be obviously catered for a bit more focused.
Yeah.
There's a lot more focus going to be, placed on that, and it's just also interesting to see that sometimes that it's missed. You find yourself in a situation where there's a building where there is no lift, for example.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with the situation of where nobody can get access to this building if this person is in a wheelchair. And those are the types of things that people need education around.
Yes.
And also just the journey from a school perspective. You mentioned he's 8 years old, and how's that experience? I know that there are special school, or not special, but different schools that are there available, for individuals that need to be catered for. So how's that experience? Has it been good? Has it been, accessibility? Has it been, a learning curve for also the teachers at schools?
Yes. He attends school at Tiba Blind, Indonesia. They are a very good school.
Yeah.
It's a school for where most of the kids are diagnosed with cerebral palsy, not just children, even as well as adults. Yes. I think they work well with the children. Tyrese is very fond of his teachers. He learns a lot. He comes home. He tells us what he learned. He tells us all the stories. He creates friends. Makes friends easily. So yeah, I would say the schools. He's at a very good school, and they take good care of him.
Do you not believe that, the schools can be integrated? Do you believe that people with disabilities at other schools would need to be separated? Is there not a way of, having everyone learn at one institution? And maybe this point of accessibility comes up. Do you not think that's possible?
It is possible, but obviously they won't be able to sit in the same class depending on the disability this person has. But I think it can be integrated.
Yeah.
I think they can have their classrooms at a normal institution and have teachers there or lecturers there that will be able to just teach them on a certain pace, because I feel like people who, like with cerebral palsy, the brain develop a bit slow.
Yeah.
So they don't learn as fast as normal kids. So it can be integrated.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked the question is twofold. One, you touched on first-hand experience. Now, if you've got other kids growing up with that first-hand experience by interacting with people with disabilities, already they are aware of this.
Yeah,
educated.
they are aware.
They know what's happening, and it's not going to be a culture shock for them when they need to engage with someone with a person with a disability. So that's, I think, the first part. And then secondly, also just seeing the person first. Again, a person with a disability would be also a person that can learn, that can be educated. They would also have their own qualities and skill set that is going to add value in some way, in some form, either within the workplace or within their own personal space. So I'm just thinking out aloud where, maybe there should be consideration of having, one area or one area of a learning institution for all people. Do you think we'll ever get there though?
Honestly, maybe in the future, yes. I think kids like Tyrese, they will be the ones to change things. They will be the one to bring those ideas forward. Yes. I think we can get there. It's not impossible.
Yeah,
it's not impossible. And also for the other kids to be able to, because when we stroll around with Tyrese, children just stare at him like, they can't stop staring. So they not at first in the experience of kids who are in wheelchair, they don't see them every day and as often as they would like. So I think if schools are integrated, they will interact with one another. Kids will be they'll be able to understand more as to what disabled kids are going through, the differences between them, how to interact, and not just stare at them when they see them in the shopping malls and stuff like that. So yeah.
Again, I mean, if kids don't see this, they don't know it.
They don't know.
They don't know how to explain.
So they look at him and they wonder like, okay, this boy is in a wheelchair, or maybe there's something wrong with him, or he's not like us. So they can not just make fun of him,
So that's true. I mean, if you don't see it as kids, and kids are always learning. They're always picking up things from a learning perspective, either from their peers, their parents, their family members. They continuously learn. So if they're not exposed to that, they're not learning about that. And just on that point, what do you think the role of other parents are? In terms of their kids and interacting with your son, and also the role of a parent when it comes to creating awareness around disability. Do you think parents have a role?
Yes, parents do have a role. Parents have a role in everything that has to do with their children. They can create awareness and just educate them a bit on kids who are disabled, or even adults who are disabled, or them being in wheelchairs. They can create awareness and just educate them a bit on what that person is going through, or what the differences they have in. They're not just dead different, they're human as well.
Exactly.
So they can teach them on how to treat people with disability.
No, of course. And I mean, we in one of our previous podcasts we also spoke about people learn from their upbringing, their parents, the peers that they surround themselves with, and this is where the learning comes from. And I think again, creating that awareness around this topic of disability is super important for parents to make sure that at a young age kids understand what's happening around them. So again, when they're older, they don't have this culture shock or this awkwardness that causes issues, and which is something that our country doesn't need, especially with celebrating Disability Awareness Month now from the 3rd of November to the 3rd of December. And again, I mean, I know it's this month, but it should be a topic that is spoken about throughout the year.
Yes.
So it's really important to have that. But Fulton, just some last words from you before we start wrapping up. Anything that you want to share with our viewers in terms of this topic of disability, a message that perhaps you feel very strongly upon regarding this topic?
I would say to people out there that people who are disabled, so I'll speak from my point of view,
of
what
course.
I'm going through. My son is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. He is aware of a lot of what's going on around him. He's very smart. Don't look at him as in, this boy, feels softness for them or whatsoever. They are just the same as us. They are unable to do certain things with their body. He can speak. People are surprised when they find out he can speak. So I would just say treat them the same. Let your kids know about disabled people, and love them the same. Don't make fun of them. It's actually interesting once you get to know the person and actually see what they are going through. So yeah.
No, thank you for that, Fulton. I think that's a very powerful message. I think you've shared quite a bit in terms of that, and it makes sense. It makes complete sense, and I share the same sentiments. And I think I would also like to thank you for also participating in our podcast today. I appreciate your views, and also I've also learned a bit from you in terms of what you've said, so I also appreciate that. To our viewers, I hope you enjoyed our episode number 6 of the BEE Chamber podcast. I'm hoping that it's been enlightening. I'm hoping that we've created awareness around disability, and hoping that you can have a takeaway within your own organization or even your own personal life and use that in some form to create value or benefit, and also other awareness. To our next episode, we hope that you'll be joining us soon. We will be recording episode 7 very soon, so we're looking forward to being back, and we're hoping that you're finding that the BE Chamber podcast is valuable. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.